And here Don says, now, the disciplines of the personality I see as the paramount work of any who have become consciously aware of the process of evolution. Am I correct on that statement? Ra says, quite. Then Don says, now, what I'm trying to get at is how these disciplines affect the energy centers and the power, shall I say, of the white magician. Will you tell me how that works? And here's the big answer. Ra says, the heart of the discipline of the personality is threefold. 1. Know yourself. 2. Accept yourself. 3. Become the creator. The third step is that step which, when accomplished, renders one the most humble servant of all, transparent in personality, and completely able to know and accept other selves. Okay, so as Don said, yes, first you become aware of the process of evolution, right? That's what generates the interest on the discipline of the personality, right? The paramount work of any who have become consciously aware of the process of evolution actually is even better phrased. The disciplines of the personality is the focus of anybody who has become aware of the process of evolution. So what is evolution? Let's put that into context first. Evolution can be summarized, and I can say this with full certainty. I don't think anybody would disagree with this in any, no matter what their interest is, what their field of work is in terms of spirituality and metaphysics and so on. Everybody can agree that evolution is the return to the self. Okay? No matter how you see it, you can see it metaphysically in densities of consciousness. You can see it as initiation on the human being, returning to the self. This is evolution. And it happens in the microcosm and in the macrocosm, obviously, because it's all holographic. So, if the process of evolution is the return of the self, which is separated for the purpose of experiences, and then return collecting experiences in the process, that's the whole purpose. It didn't fragment itself for the purpose of, or not even a purpose, by accident. It didn't happen by accident. It happened through free will. I fragment myself through free will to experience. Now, if this sounds foreign to you, realize that you're doing this in your imagination. When you have fantasies and you create scenarios and people and characters or whatever it is that your imagination goes into, you, the one self, is fragmenting itself into pieces. Right? I mean, you're not hurt, you're not broken, you're not anything. So if you follow this language into the fragmentation of imagination, of consciousness, incurring into this separation for experience, then you may see that the process is for that, for experience. Now, you can collapse all this imagination when somebody snaps at you and you say, oh yeah, it was caught in my imagination. All of that collapsed. You went to the singularity, or everything there just went to singularity. And you can open it up again, and you do it again and again and again. And so this is the same process. It's evolution. It's for that, right? It's all about experience. That's why there is no purpose. And a lot of people get this wrong because we're still thinking from the ego, thinking that if there is no purpose, then, oh my God, what am I to do? And so on. So that is the process of evolution, right? Now, when you become aware of the process of evolution, the disciplines of the personality are of paramount work. That is correct. That's what Ra says. You're quite correct. They just said quite, but you can extrapolate there. Now, with that in mind, let's see what the disciplines of the personality is about. What I'm trying to get at is how these disciplines affect the energy centers and the power of the white magician. I, not that I don't like, but it's not my cup of tea. What Don was getting into, energy centers, white magician, working consciousness, and all of this, for reasons that I will explain later. But just luckily for us, Ra did explain the following. The heart of the discipline of the personality is threefold, meaning three things happen. 1, know yourself. 2, accept yourself. 3, become the creator. Here's where we can play with this, okay? There is no one way to see it. This is how it is. One thing I can say that is universal is that the self that is being spoken here is not the, as I explained, the limited personality, which is the separate self, right? So we can agree that Ra is not saying, know your separate self. And that we know already. We believe in it. It's a belief, actually. It's not even an it, is a belief. The separate self is a belief. The ego is a belief system. So we can agree that Ra is saying, know yourself as the self, the one self that exists. Okay. Okay, so how do I know that? Well, we can debate that. 2, you need to accept yourself. Once you know who you are, you need to accept that, right? And then 3, you become the creator, naturally. I'll tell you why and how. I'll explain this in 2 ways, which does make sense, and it's an interpretation that I've heard, is knowing is of the heart. You know from the heart, right? This is not the density of understanding, of knowing. The density of understanding and knowing is 4th density, the heart. But we have our heart, right? It's not like we don't have a heart. So we know ourselves through the heart. We accept ourselves through wisdom. So we can say that knowing is loving and accepting is wisdom. And 3 is becoming the creator. So contact with intelligent infinity, indigo work, or the adept. Everything makes sense here when we talk about it this way. Know, accept, become the creator. Indigo ray is the analog of intelligent infinity in the creation, right, of 7th chakra, which is the dissolution of the self. The self can only know itself through the inpouring of indigo ray, if you want to use this language. So, 1, you know yourself. Now, how do I play with this? What do I play with when it's not even play, but you know what I mean? It's just, the game that we play here of remembering who we are. I use the direct path, which is, again, we can use anything. It's just that for my own experience, the direct path is the only thing that is just succinct and direct to the point. That's what's supposed to be. So in the direct path, the first thing we do is we recognize who we are by methods of acknowledging that which we are not. I mean, this is the apophatic system, or the neti-neti process. We go back into ourselves by saying, I am not this, I am not that. Generally is, I am not the body and I am not the mind. Now, this is not something that you just simply recite. It's an investigation. In the direct path, perhaps its difficulty lies in the foundation that it is pure and honest investigation of ourselves. And so we investigate, am I the body? We look at the proof, at the evidence that we have that we are the body, and we say, no, I'm not. And then I'm saying, well, I am the mind. Am I the mind? And we investigate that, and we know we're not. What we're left with, which is an unexplainable feeling, which is the self, that I am, right? At least that I know for certainty that I cannot say that I'm not, because it's always present. And again, I cannot explain it. Nobody can. It's not possible. Yet, it is an experience. It is a real experience. This is the first knowing yourself, right? In the direct path for me. Okay, I merge law of one and non-duality in the direct path for this. That's just how I do it. Second step of the discipline of the personality is to accept yourself. This is the step in which you, in the direct path, which takes, it's a direct path on the first step. In fact, it's the whole system that you keep repeating. Because now, accepting yourself becomes the part where you simply live through this point. Live through this reality of who you are. This is the acceptance that everything else that you believe to be is part of this. And I can't and I won't explain here because it's a long discussion on how this is what we call the collapse of duality and so on in the direct path, my method. And then 3, become the creator. Because once you stop the belief of the ego and you stand in the presence of your own being, you are that creator. You see, this is not something that is reserved for a few mystics. And no, this is here and now. And this is why modern mystics have been talking about this without all the mythology surrounding and all the paraphernalia and the rest of the bombastic practices and all of this, which do have their merits. They all have their merit, but society is not, at least modern society, is not prepared for that. We can go into a progressive path, which is the alternative of the direct path, and we can go to the progressive path and go to a temple and so on, but for modern society, this is not feasible. And I've talked about New Age, how New Age is just the recognition of that, but without coherence. And that's what New Age really is destined to be. It's not going to be at all. It's just, it's really like what's the phrase? Like a mishmash, hodgepodge. Is that what it is? I forget the phrases in English, but it's a mixture of everything, you know, and it's nothing in particular. New Age is a jack of all trades, master of none. You see, and so for anybody who is interested in this, you have to select something. You have to go through a disciplined path, whatever that may be, progressive, direct. If we want to see the fruits of becoming the creator, we have to pick something. So, to finish up this part, Ross says, the third step is that step which, when accomplished, renders one the most humble servant of all, transparent in personality, and completely able to know and accept other selves. I could just go on for a while on this because this is directly related to what I live, to what I teach, to what I this what you're seeing here right now is that, and it's that desire, that passion that I have to want to communicate this to others and tell them this is who you are or what you are. There are no problems. The problems are a belief also. They're a belief of a belief, which is the ego. So, again, I could go on with this paragraph when they say that the third step, when accomplished, renders one the most humble. Let me say something else too that I think is important. It's not like you achieve the third step as you want to get when you get a medal and you become that. We're so accomplished that in human mind and human mentality that we think, so I'm in the step of knowing myself. When will I get to accept myself? This is not like that. This is a growing, you can see it as a beam of light, like a sort of supernova that happens within yourself. Once you recognize who you are, boom, that's the supernova. Now, the speed at which that expands depends on how much attention you keep giving to that knowing of yourself, right? Know thyself is the first step, and the eternal step to completely abide into that awareness. You see, so the third step, again, maybe the event horizon, if you will, of this black hole that was generated by the supernova. Yes? And this black hole will expand as you give attention to it. The singularity, the creator will expand. So it's not a step that is achieved, right? This is one little disagreement that I have with Ra here, because it's not something that you accomplish, and it's not a disagreement. I know what they mean. It's just that when you become aware of this, it just shines through you, right? And I think that's the most important part, that you realize that this is not something that is achieved and all of a sudden I'm transformed, like a big flash. It doesn't happen that way. Although the flash does happen inside, and that it just continues to grow. And what pushes away is the ego, the separation. There is no more separation. But you see, even that sounds very absolutist. It's not that there is no more separation. In our experience, at least from my point of view, it has been a growing desensitization of separation. I can no longer see separation as I used to, yet I do perceive certain shades of separation, which go back to this same furnace of know, accept, and become the creator. But again, all of this is my teachings. I will, of course, put the shameless plug that my Direct Path course is available in the description if you want to take a look at it, because that's the only thing I can offer you. Let's keep reading to see what Ra says.